Hey everyone, and welcome to the Nerdy Up North podcast, the nerdy podcast hosted by two northern nerds. I'm one of your hosts, Sam,
And I'm the other host, Paul.
and this is episode 1 of our mini-sword movie reviews.
I like that mini-sword, yes.
Mini-sword movie review, and this is episode 1.
Mhm.
We've decided that we're going to try and keep the movie reviews kind of short and sweet. Yeah?
Yeah, I know we can go off in tangent and talk about ridiculous stuff, but
Because we could.
Yes, but as you know, we love, our big thing is films, and now that the movies are starting to come out again, and we're starting to get some releases, so we thought we'd do like a little mini review of recent films or new films that we will be watching, and again, we've totally watched them separate, so this is the first time me and Sam will be talking about the films actually two together and getting our thoughts, so it should be an interesting take.
Okie dokie. So this is, it's a 2021 release. It scored 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's directed by Michael Chavez. The story is by James Wan and David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, starring Vera Farmiga. I think I'm saying that right.
Glad you titled that one. I wasn't going to try and name that.
Patrick Wilson as the great Lorraine Warren and Ed Warren, based on a true story of the 1981 case of Arnie Cheyenne Johnson. This is The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It.
Yeah, so technically The Conjuring Part 3.
Part 3 of the Conjuring movies, and God knows how many was actually in the universe.
Yes, so they're trying to take over Marvel with the whole Expanse.
And I am all for it. I am so for this universe just to get bigger and bigger. So the director of this movie is Michael Chavez. He is actually the director of The Curse of La Llorona, which is also within the Conjuring universe. And it's the
that
first
makes a lot more sense to me now.
Yep, well, it is the first one out of the Conjuring films that James Wan has not directed. He wrote the story for it, but didn't direct it, and apparently just handed the reins off to Michael and said, "You do you." And we got a very, very different take on the Conjuring movies. Yeah, in my opinion, not necessarily in a bad way.
Right.
But what's your thoughts?
So starting off, I didn't hate the film. That's always a good start. I didn't love the film.
I get that.
There was aspects I enjoyed, and like I say, we'll discuss that as part of the film. And there's bits that it kind of just was a meh. It didn't like trying to think back about aspects of the film now. I'm finding it hard to think. And like when you think about the Conjuring films, like the first one, I haven't watched for a long time. I'll be honest; it's probably been over a year, and there's still aspects clear as day that jump straight in my head that I can think of. And even the second one, again, I wasn't the biggest fan of the second one, but it had its moments. That's
the magic of James Wan, because, and someone pointed this out to us, that it didn't rely on James's jump scares like it has done in the past.
But it missed it.
Relied on story.
Yeah,
but that's what we go for.
Yeah, that's what we missed. We missed them jump scares. Even the story, I know, like I said, they try to make you care about people. That's, like as you said, the director of La Llorona. When I watched that film, I was totally diverse. I didn't care about the characters. It jumped straight in. And same with this one. I think the way I would describe it's like not the most polite way, but it blew its load too early. It went in too big. It didn't build. It tried to keep up the pace throughout, and it didn't have an impact. There was nowhere to go after the start with the whole the kid being possessed and doing the whole exorcist twists and interest. And then it did border. Well, it went over the line of cheesy at times as well, which for a horror film, sometimes a cheesy can be good. When it's like relatable or done in a fun way. But this was cheesy in the point where it was predictable at times as well. Like And just to start off as well, there is going to be a lot of spoilers in here, so if you haven't seen the film,
yeah, that should have been a given from the start. Like,
yeah.
if you haven't seen it, don't watch this. But I totally get what you mean. The only issue, and not an issue, but the only thing is, you could put them two actors as Ed and Lorraine Warren in any circumstance, and I am going to love it because I absolutely love them two as the character, not as, because they're not Ed and Lorraine. Like this, for all this is a true story, and I read up on the case today. He did say I don't know, I think it was without Ed and Lorraine's persuasion. He went into court and said he murdered his landlord because he was demonically possessed.
Yeah.
And the story, I don't know if that story was strong enough for them to go on.
Yeah.
There's a few things I wanted to get into. First one being the amount of homages that was placed within this film. The opening scene with the priest getting out of the car with the hat on, with the house in the front, and it's Exorcist written all over.
100%.
And then there's a few obviously Merrick and Damien Merrick, the priest, his name is actually said, not Damien, but Dr. Merrick is actually said when Ed's in hospital. So a lot of homage to The Exorcist, and then also to The Shining. When Ed's possessed and he's got the sledgehammer and he's got his effed up leg, it's very much Jack Nicholson in The Shining. I love the fact that they did pay homage. It was too much.
Yeah.
You're in your own universe. You don't need to rely on this is 3 films in. This is not the first one. You don't need to rely on other horror films to carry your film. That just shows weakness for me, anyway.
What I have to say as well, I know we're talking in the age where films do look good these days. Out of the 3 films, like I know they talk about the universe, but the 3 main Conjuring films, this was the most beautiful shots. The effects were better than any of the Conjurings. Like, because I love the first Conjuring, and the witch is straight out of Fraggle Rock in type of like looks and stuff, where the actual visual in this one was done well, and it was done in a way where it would like not real. How can you talk about a demon film when it's realistic? But it was done in a way where you could believe, like, possessed. It wasn't like a rubbery mask.
I totally get what you mean. It was aesthetically like beautiful to look at. There was a couple of people who stood out for us who I really enjoyed watching. The little kid with the glasses, he's from Haunting of Hill House, and I think he's got a hell of a career ahead of him because he is just fantastic. He's a lovely little kid. I think the guy who played Arnie, I thought he was really good. I think he was the difference between nice guy and possessed guy. There was a clear difference there. I enjoyed his performance.
I think I opted out, not opted out, like cashed out on him, but Sonny done the whole take me. I was like, oh, fuck off.
Again, it's Exorcist. It's The Exorcist. It's one Damien. Is it Damien? Is that what he called? Yes. When he says, take me, and he does, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
so that's another homage to The Exorcist.
Yeah, I kind of checked out at that point because I was like, oh, then you knew what was going to happen. And as I said, I like the slow burners that keep you on your toes, but you knew where these were going. Bits I found really interesting about the film was, I'd like to say, Ed and Lorraine were done beautifully again, and that showed a lot of vulnerability this time, especially after the attack on Ed. And I liked that. It was like, right, they're not, like, they're getting older, they're slowing down. It's showing that this is taking its toll. I thought, great, that's perfect. The Satanist angle, amazing. I love that aspect. Delve into that more. Give us more of that.
That's exactly on me.
I want to know where she got that background, and is there more people out there like her? Yes,
definitely.
Love that. And I like the police officer that they went to get help on the missing girl. I like that element where the
oh yes, I know exactly who you mean.
That was interesting. I was like, go there, do that, show this.
Yes,
but then,
but
like I said,
it
when
was
they
too short-lived.
Jail and going there, I was just like, oh man, this is boring. I don't want to be bored doing a horror film.
I totally get what you mean. I've on my notes, I've actually wrote down the amazing, and John Noble, who
Mhm.
played Denethor in Lord of the Rings,
Yes.
and I just love that man so much. He's a dick in Lord of the Rings, but his acting ability is spot on. He played Father Kastner. Kastner.
I can't
I
remember his
want,
name, but
and
he, like I said, he stood out as like,
I just want to see more of him.
yeah, like what
He
happened to
had
him
he
and stuff like that. What made him get
exactly,
to that?
and there was there's a few lines that have been taken from the first film and put in the second one, or taken from Annabelle and put into this one as well. And one of them was when in his little room of demonology stuff, and he says you should burn this to the ground, and John Noble's like, well, why, when you should really keep it locked up? And that is exactly what Ed Warren said to somebody else, that you need to keep this thing up because it's just a vessel. That's all these items are, as vessels, and if you burn them, you're just releasing what's inside. He said the same. It was like mirror image, the same thing. But I mentioned the Rotten Tomatoes, which I will do on every film, because Rotten Tomatoes scores for me, I always check them. It does not put a dampener on what I think of the film, but I always look to see what they are. This one scored 57%. What did the first and second one score?
First one probably must have been in the 60s or 70s.
80.
80, right.
86 actually, and the second one was 80. It's taken a huge dive from where they were to this one, and I think, and I've put on my notes, will we see a Conjuring 4? Will we see a continuation of Ed and Lorraine Warren? Because their notable cases have now all been covered.
Except one.
Which one?
Amityville.
Are you thinking of Amityville?
Yeah.
See, Amityville's in the second one. She's there. She's in the second one. It's the beginning bit.
I still think the need is tell that story, though. That's the one that should finish it, because that's the biggest horror ghost story that's ever been.
It would be a bit, but it has to be done by James Wan. It has to be. He can. If he was to do something like that, he cannot throw it to someone else. The other part was Valak. Not in this film, obviously. It's got nothing to do with her. But in the end scene, when he's putting the thingy in their little museum, Valak's picture never leaves the frame. It's never out of shot. It's always focused on. It's not blurred out. Even when he goes, if you follow him around where he's putting it in the shelf, there is a bit here. She still fits in. Does that mean we're going to see Valak again?
I hope not,
because I thought she.
Yes,
but I like her as a.
Yeah, but the Nun is in one of my worst films I've ever seen.
I would need to watch it again. I would need to watch it again, because when we went to see it at the cinema, I could not make out half of what I was watching because the screen was too dark. But I think as a villain, she's so aesthetically pleasing. Like, she looks amazing.
Yeah, it's also got that creepy vibe and stuff. But again, you probably disagree with us a bit. That aspect took us a little bit out of The Conjuring too, because, like I say, being from the UK, I loved the fact that they've done a UK horror story, which
the Enfield haunting is scary in itself.
Is really good. But then they brought that nun element into it. It kind of lost it a bit for us.
I get what you're saying. The Enfield haunting is very scary in itself. Like, you didn't need the Valak aspect of it, but you have to tie the Warrens into something in within the universe he's creating, because the Warrens really weren't there at Enfield as long as what they made out. They were literally there for about a day or something. They came right at the end when it was all getting quiet. What they could have done, and what has been done, is on it's an English program on Living TV that was a 3-parter series on Enfield haunting with Timothy Spall.
Peter, what?
No,
what?
He's dead, dear. Timothy Spall.
That's Timothy Spall.
Yeah, Timothy Spall, and he played Maurice Grossman. Was it Maurice Grossman? And that was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Just bringing in it was obviously the possession, the the haunting and also grief as well. It brought into his grief over losing his daughter, and the reason why he does what he does is to get that. And it's such a good program. It was really well done. And the Warrens are not mentioned in it at all.
It was like a Halloween special type thing. Yeah, no, I remember that because that came out, and I think it was a year or two after that they brought The Conjuring 2, and as you said, if you compare them, that one is the better. But like I say, going back to this one, I'm hoping
let's go back to our review.
I am hoping that they are going to bring more into, like say, the Conjuring universe and not expand other stories as much as they have. But
yeah, I'm sick of saying Annabelle.
Lorraine and like I say, Lorraine, the Warrens, they are interesting characters. And the guys that are playing them, like, I'll not try and pronounce the names because, like you say,
Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson.
Yeah,
Vera is quite a scream queen.
Yes.
Her back catalogue of horror movies keeps to be stacking up. But I think personally, this is one of the best characters she's ever done. She does it very. There's just something about her. She's like her and her sister. Because her sister's in The Nun.
She was in American Horror Story as well, wasn't it? The sister,
she was, yeah. She was very annoying in that. But they just have a knack with the horror genre, the two of them. But especially Vera, like I just love how she plays Lorraine.
Yeah.
I really do. And I watched a lot of the behind the scene like documentaries they've done, and our relationship she had with the actual Lorraine Warren was just lovely. Right, really lovely. Like obviously Ed's been gone a few years now. Lorraine only died 2019, but they were she was very heavily involved with all the films, which is kind of a good thing because it doesn't mean that you're stepping on toes.
Patrick Wilson was in like Insidious as well, which is again
he's got a good
background. But like I said, the whole going back to like I say The Conjuring 3, that Satanist angle was done so well, and the little effigies that they used, that they were done terrifying. I would love to have seen like a making of, like not like behind the scenes, like the Satanist creating this thing, and what goes into the spell for that as well, because that would have been.
It was. Do you know what though? What it feels like the not enough explanation as to where the Satanists come from, and it's the same with Valak.
Yeah,
it's like Valak was just placed in at the last minute. That at the end of the Conjuring 2, and then she was kind of the same. They don't explain their villains in great detail, which seems to me that are they going to do something with that character again in another spin-off film, because they are just creating this mass universe.
Hopefully, but like as you said, because the characters they are using, like say, leaving the second one out, like the witch in the first Conjuring, the backstory for that was sinister and stuff. I want, like I say, I want to know why. Like, was it curiosity that's turned this young, beautiful girl into, like, say, Satanism? Was it power? Is it what's she getting from it?
What's her wrangle? What's her wrangle? But that's what they did. He did say, John. I think it was John Noble's character said it's not a case of, not a case of the why. It's the because they can.
Right.
That was the explanation they give for it. And that's the explanation they give for everything within the Conjuring film. It's not the why, it's the because they can.
Yeah.
But is that good enough for you?
Possibly not. But that's the thing, because I know everything doesn't need an explanation. Like I say, one of my favourite films in the world is Halloween. And I love the fact that, like I say, Michael Myers just kills because he...
There's no rhyme or reason.
There's no reasons. And same with, like I say, The Strangers. Again, one of the most terrifying films I've ever seen is when she asks him at the end, why are you doing this? Because you answered the door.
Yeah. There's no need to question the why on them, because because they can do it is the scariest part.
Yeah.
There's no explanation to it. Right. So give your final thoughts.
Watchable, I would say. If you like horror films, it's definitely a must watch. But if I was going to give it out as like a score out of 5, it'll probably be a 2 star.
Okay.
Needs not the worst, but it'll probably be a good few years before I revisit. I'll probably watch the first two and then watch that one just to, like I said, finish off. Then if they bring out another one, that'll be, like I say, just to re-jog me memory. Because as I said, I only watched it last week, and there's huge.
Yeah, I only saw it last Tuesday. I love I love the main characters. They could literally walk across the field for 2 hours and I would be happy watching it. But with regards to strength within the first, like, out of the three, it is the weakest one. It did have a good story that just needed a little bit more to it. If I was going to give a rating out of 5, I'd be looking at about a 3.5.
Being very kind. I think that my biggest problem with it felt like 2 films in one.
That's like the Conjuring 2 in a way. I remember when we walked out the cinema with Carol and I went, it's not a patch on the Conjuring 2. It is not a patch on 2. Yeah. But it's just them two. They work so beautifully together that they make it watchable and they make you want to watch it to the end and they make you care. That's how good they are on screen together, that they make you care about like what they're going through. Even if you really are bored out your tits with it, you still want to see where it leads to.
Cool.
But there we go. That's our thoughts on the Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It.
Yeah, so a Nerdy Up North review for the first time.
First review done. Yeah.
Just want to say thank you for watching. If you agree with our review, let us know. If you disagree, if you think we've missed anything important, again, let us know. Follow us on Facebook. It's Nerdy Up North, the community. Instagram, Nerdy Up North. Like I say, this will go out on YouTube. So again, like, follow, subscribe. And also on iTunes and Spotify. So
you covered it all there.
Got it all in. Like I say, not like I've been rehearsing. It's okay.
I always say the opening in my head and always end up saying it wrong when it comes out my mouth. So I get you. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Yeah, if you do disagree with anything we're saying or agree, please let us know. We're happy to have a conversation with you. So thanks very much for listening and watching, and that's it.
Same bat time and same bat channel.
Stay nerdy, everyone. Bye. Bye.